This is Daniel 1, the first of the minor prophets in the Bible in the Old Testament. These are very, very vital to listen to. This is God speaking through them and what He's warning mankind about always. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem, and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hands. Excuse me. With part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried off into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God. And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. Now this is about Nebuchadnezzar. This is about Nebuchadnezzar. Excuse me. And the king spoke unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel and the king's seed and of the princes, children in whom there was no blemish, but well favored and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning in knowledge, and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning of the tongues of Chaldeans. Now, we read so far that Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, is going to besiege Jerusalem, and the king of Judah he's going to carry into captivity. He's also going to carry the vessels of the house of the God, our God, the Lord God, from Jerusalem, and carry it into the land of Shinar, the house of his God, which is Babylon. And as it says in verse 3, the king of Babylon spoke to Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he would bring a certain of children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and the princes, of the king of Judah's eunuchs, of his seed, the children of Israel. The eunuchs here, as we'll read later, is Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They've changed their names in the land of Babylon. They were special children, not in special needs as not special needs as in Down syndrome or anything like that. They were very wise children. They were children of Israel. They were some of the Israelites that weren't tainted by all the nations and their teachings and their gods and goddesses, and why we have such a problem today in churches and religious organizations and everything else. Because it carried on through the years and the ages, the centuries, the millenniums, which is 1,000 years. And this is where it began. So verse 4, it says, children in whom there was no blemish, but well-favored, skilled in wisdom, and cunning, and knowledge, understanding science, and had an ability in them to stand in the king's palace, in whom they might teach the learning of the tongue of the Chaldeans. So what God was doing, is allowing Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who, like I said, their names were changed. That's all I remember as that's all I remember. I remember them as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But they had different names, and I've got to look them up because I don't remember them exactly. Excuse me. Now, the children who had no blemish, they were well-favored, skillful in all wisdom. They're children of Israel. Some of them learned from God and kept it. And they were not eventually divorced by God. Divorced from God, because he had to divorce them. They wouldn't listen to him. They wouldn't obey him. They wouldn't do anything. They kept on. They kept on listening to their own human understanding, which is a dangerous thing, as I've been mentioning and teaching so many videos and notes and posts. We cannot lean on our own understanding. That is a dangerous way to live. It is a highway to hell, and you have to stop. They were skillful in all wisdom. Through the wisdom of God and man, they were very well-favored, as it says. Well-favored with God and well-favored with man. They were cunning in knowledge. Understanding what they needed to know. What God would teach them. What man had to know through God so they could do what he needed them to do, trusting in him all the time for everything. And had such ability in them to stand in the king's palace. They also understood science. Go.
So, at the science part, okay. They can hear me. It can hear me. Yada, yada. Hello. Anyway, you shall know your end from your beginning. We'll start there, okay?
Yeah, you will. God tells us we will.
Right. Well, we shall also understand God's theorem on that thought of you shall know your end from your beginning. How did we begin? Well, how do we end?
First of all, we were souls.
Right.
In heaven.
Right.
In a gulf.
Okay. Right. Not to get too carried away.
No, I know.
But, yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
But you shall know your end from your beginning. Well, what is your end? Because you're lukewarm, I will spew you out of my mouth.
Mm-hmm. Revelation 21:8. That is their end. And it's awaiting everyone who does not obey everything that Jesus teaches and do it.
And getting
Believe
hot.
it. Yeah.
Hot on it. Getting into it. Staying in it.
Mm-hmm. You have to endure till the end, he says. And that's enduring to the end.
There ain't no excuse, reason, or alibis for backsliding. Not at all.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing our end from our beginning, well, our beginning, all of humankind, our beginning came from that spewing out of the mouth. God spewed Satan and all those angels. In that very moment that they decided that they wanted to do whatever, I don't think so. Get out of here. They're gone. He spit them out of heaven.
Yeah, because they're spirits.
Right.
They're invisible.
And they're in his mouth.
Yeah.
If a person has a name and he speaks your name, where's it coming from? It's coming out of his mouth. Like Jesus spoke, man does not live by bread alone, but by every word which proceeds out of the mouth, our own mouth, of God. Okay, so if out of our own mouth is of God, speaking the word, okay, then, we are like our Creator. We speak out of our own mouth. He speaks out of his own mouth. But what else comes out of the mouth? Blessings and cursings. On the other end of the spectrum of what comes out of the mouth, spew, vomit, spittle, sneezes, coughing. So, just to put it into that correct context of what he's speaking there, I will spew you out of my mouth. That was our end, but that's also our beginning. Because he says, I would that you were either hot or cold, but because you're lukewarm, I'm going to spew you out of my mouth. That is the end for many people, because they'd rather
religion.
Yeah, they'd rather they'd rather ride the fence.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, arguing and piss-pissing and moaning between one end of the spectrum of science and the other end of the spectrum of religion.
Yeah, because you're supposed to believe all truth by faith.
Right.
If you don't, you're not going to believe it, and you're going to send yourself to hell, because that's what the word says.
Yeah.
It's not something we made up, and we're trying to piss everybody off. No. It's the truth.
Yeah.
He warns us, I don't know how many times in just the New Testament.
Right.
The Old Testament's filled with it, too.
So, being that you and I are pretty much here in the middle of this stuff, we are in this world, but not of it. The science and the religion are in this world, and they are of this world, because they don't know any better.
They don't want to.
I know.
They don't want to. They don't choose to. They don't will themselves to. We willed ourselves to believe all truth by faith. What Jesus says, we know is all truth. And all the prophets said with God's words are truth.
Yeah. They're like, well, they're saying, oh, you're willing yourself, then it's a yo thing. It's just yourself thing.
No, we're supposed to.
Exactly right.
He said, will your own self.
Where's the scripture on that? Well, if you are willing or obedient.
Yes, you shall eat the good of the land.
And if you will not believe.
That's right, you will not be established.
There you go.
So you won't be established in truth, because you don't believe in truth.
Yeah.
All of it, not just parts of it or some of it, or little, maybe 99% of it. You're supposed to believe 100% of it, without fail.
So that's why I bring that back, that we are stuck here, not stuck here in the middle. Thank God we were separated and loosed from both ends of the spectrum, so that we don't have science creeping in one hole and then religion sticking in every other hole.
I know.
No, our system of belief and life has been sealed. Thank you, Jesus, for that.
Thank you, Lord.
Against both ends of that spectrum.
We have to. Everybody has to. Otherwise, they're going to be
Well, put it this way.
Deceived.
Everybody that so desires to go to heaven will desire this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To be loosed from the world and given that chance, that shot to become all that God has called them to be.
Mm-hmm.
And what is it? Just merely believing. Walking and living and seeing
what you can't see.
Right.
And what you can't see, he said, blessed are those who see and not. Those who don't see and yet believe.
Right. Because
he told that to doubting Thomas.
Yeah, so what was the 3 errors of man? He gave them a heart to understand, but they didn't. He gave them eyes to see, but they were blind. Mm-hmm. Ears to hear, but they were deaf. They
will not themselves.
Right.
To believe.
Right. So, what Jesus said when he first entered into the temple, he opened up the book of Isaiah, and he said, this day is this scripture fulfilled in your hearing. Meaning that at that point, all of that stuff that we were cut off from because of human error, trial and error, and doubt, all that other stuff, reasons, excuses, and alibis, had been finally cut off when Jesus spoke those words. Forever.
Thank you, Lord.
He said, this day is this scripture fulfilled in your hearing.
And anybody reading it.
Yeah.
In the Bible. Anybody.
Not only of what he was sent here to do and be and go and whatever, but also in your hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Paul writes, faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. Mm-hmm. So even Paul backs it up.
Oh yeah.
But they want to throw Paul. They're even throwing Paul under the bus, saying, "Well, he's like us." Blah blah blah. No, he wasn't. Yeah, he made some mistakes, errors in his writing, but so what?
Traditions, yeah.
At least he was trying. You're not even trying. You're just going by his word and messing it up.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody with balls, real cajones, would step up to the plate and admit, yeah, you're right. I have taken Paul and put him under the bus with myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're doing. We did. Shame on us.
Yeah.
But thank you, Jesus. He allowed us to see our error and bring us forth.
Because we were willing. Because we were willing.
Yeah. He brought us to himself.
He knows our every thought, our every motive, our every intention, our deed, our action, reaction, and words. He knows everything about us. So he's already warned us that your end is going to be worse than your beginning if you disobey my truths. If you disobey any of them.
Yeah.
So you have to believe them first. For all of them.
Disobedience is also doubting.
Yeah, it is. Doubting.
That's willful disobedience. Total disregard.
Rebellion.
Yeah.
It's like witchcraft, he says.
Mm-hmm.
In Isaiah, it says, rebellion is as witchcraft.
Right.
It's dangerous to rebel against God in any way, shape, or form, even a lie, a small lie, a big lie, whatever kind of lie, and even believing in a lie, such as eternal salvation.
Which includes...
eternal...
security.
Eternal security. Right. Yeah, OSAS belief. Charles Stanley teaches it in others. It's a danger to your soul.
We cannot assume, because that is all part and parcel of that package.
I know.
As all that we speak of the spiritual is a finite package to be utilized and accepted and partaken of and with, to understand. So is also the doubt and all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's a packaged deal. You get one, you get it all. If you accept one, you accept it all.
Exactly. You have to.
Right.
All of it, not
that's why he says,
most of it.
That's why he says you cannot serve God and man on.
And
you'll either love the one and hate the other, or hold to the one and despise the other. You can't do it. You have to beg, plead, cry out unto him, please loose me from these two ends, because I can't get squat. You just can't. You got to come to that rationale, folks.
What is the mammon part?
Mammon.
Not the money and all that, but no, what is the mammon?
Mammon. Oh man, namby-pamby. I want, I need, I want. Like, what about
man stuff? Right?
Man stuff, yeah. It's just, it's selfishness.
So you can't serve, you cannot claim you're in Christ when you got a foothold in this earth with man's teachings at churches and TV, radio churches and everything else.
Even though they talk big on selflessness, but that's only to get the blame, shame, and guilt rolling thing going on
there. They want to keep you there.
Yeah, so you give them your money.
Yeah, they want to keep you there. They're luring you in.
And that's all it is their love of money. It's the root of all evil. If they love money, then all they're giving you is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
So if there's any truth about and within them, other than what word they speak of and from the written word, but even then, what version are they using to help their comfort zones slough down? It's terrible. They've complicated it up the wazoo.
Because of their lies.
Oh, yeah.
Half-truths.
Oh, yeah.
Their half-truths are the lies. And
you start with one lie, you got to tell
Satan
10
is
the
father of lies.
Yeah. You speak one lie, you got to speak 10 more to cover that one.
Yeah.
Well, once you got up to 10 lies, how many lies are you telling?
Yeah, and by the time you come up with eternal security, you got such a lie out there, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
You're damning yourselves believing in it. And it says that if you even have the love of a lie within you, well, love of a lie is the love of osas, or the love and the holding on to it, eternal security. That's a danger.
It's all falsehood.
It is.
And I do mean all of it is falsehood.
It is.
Of man.
That's because that's where it came from.
Yeah.
Man believes Satan and the witch over their own personality, over God's word.
Oh, yeah.
All truth.
It's all selfish.
Yeah. That's what we came out of.
Yeah.
That belief of Satan, the witch, in our personality, trying to rule us. It doesn't rule us anymore. We know the truth. We believe it. We hold fast to it. We will not let go of it. And that is why we are as bold as to teach these things to you, because you have to do the same.
We believe in the buzzwords of the Bible.
Yes.
You know, if you be willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. You gotta believe that.
Yeah, you have to.
You've got to, otherwise, there you go, off you go, you know.
That's what the eternal security is about, to deceive you. And they don't even know you're deceiving, or they don't even know they're deceiving you. You don't even know you're deceived. That's the beauty of it with them. Because they have no idea what they're believing in, but yet they believe in it. It's a falsehood.
The thing is, there ain't no belief. I mean, there ain't no beauty in that, because it's a complete horror.
It is a horror, but it's a beauty for Satan and the witch, because they can't figure it out.
Yep.
That's the beauty of it, because they want them with them in eternity.
They love chaos, and so there isn't going to be any peace with them.
Right. That's the only thing I meant.
And there's no absolutes.
No, I know. That's all I meant by it. Oh, no, I know it's a horror. It's the worst horror of all.
Yep.
Because eternal damnation is the second death. And Revelation 21:8 is the reason people do send themselves to hell.
Yep.
They lie. Mm. They love a lie. Oh, let's see. Osas and eternal security.
Yeah.
That alone, even if you don't do anything wrong, that alone is enough to put a person in hell. But they don't realize that.
Yeah.
They don't want to know it.
It's like Thomas. He doubted.
Yeah, I know.
And he had that designation upon him. But yeah, he was sending himself right into the gates of hell.
Yeah, he was.
You know, but God's long suffering for him through the Son allowed him to be there when Jesus came to that upper room the second time.
Yeah.
And he says, hey, check it out, dude.
Yeah.
Here I am. Here's the holes in my hands and my feet and my side. You know, put your hands there. That's what you said. Put them there.
Yeah. Not until I put my hands in his holes in his hands and feet, I'll believe.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
Well, Jesus let him.
Yeah.
God gave him that opportunity to believe finally.
And even if he was so dumbfounded he didn't even know what to say or do, Jesus quite possibly grabbed his hands and thrust him into his side and thrust his fingers through those holes to tell him, look, dude, I'm here. I'm real. You better believe me now.
Yeah, exactly. Blessed are those who believe and don't see.
Right.
And yet don't see. Yeah. Exactly.
I'll put it into a greater context. Blessed are those who have never physically seen Jesus in the flesh, but believe that he is and does. Well, I know.
That's what it means.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, you can't see God, but yet you believe in him. Why? Because of faith.
Yeah.
And the people in the world, like education department, they don't believe, so they can't see it, so they don't believe it.
Well, they want
and they teach our kids that.
They want to get into that contradiction type of network thought that the Bible contradicts itself so terribly. So because it also says no man has ever seen God at any time, which is true.
Yeah, I know.
No, Moses never saw him, although he saw his hinder parts, which is God's Shekinah glory. He saw that.
Mm-hmm.
But we, through dreams and visions and whatnot, we see God in all these different persons, places, and things, and entities that exist. Like Paul writes in Romans chapter 1, they're physically seen, they're undeniable.
Yeah, they are.
God's proven himself throughout all things.
And all generations, too.
Right.
Yeah, even today.
Yeah,
we see it all over the place.
But it's because of this fixed indifference within the thoughts and mindset of man that's why they're missing it. Terribly so.
Mm-hmm.
And they're to the point they don't even care anymore. That's why they allowed so many different versions of the Bible to be printed out.
Tolerance is a highway to hell.
Yeah, it is.
Tolerance.
All tolerance is the twin alter ego of doubt.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all they want to know. That's all they're going to know. That's why he said, "But you are lukewarm, spew you out of my mouth." Mm-hmm. So that's how time and space was created. God spit Satan and everybody else. As Jesus said, I saw Satan fall from heaven like lightning.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and get on with this. Daniel chapter 1, right?
Yeah, chapter 1, verse 4. Mm-hmm. Children in whom there was no blemish, but well favored and skillful in all wisdom and cunning in knowledge and understanding science, and such as had an ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning of and the tongue of the Chaldeans. Okay, now Chaldeans, getting back to that, yes, they were a tribe, but they were also the king chiefs of the hierarchy of that belief system of that day in Babylon. So, high chiefs of religion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. They were religious people.
Yeah. Well, if they were taught that, then that means that they just learned it.
Yeah.
It didn't mean that they were stuck in it by any means, because that's the whole thing between those that know the wisdom of God, grasp hold of it and hold tightly to it.
Born again.
Yeah. And those that just assume they think they're all out in a box of rocks.
Yeah, the religious people, churchgoers, and people on TV and radio, churchgoers.
Yeah, they're too smart for their own good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because
they can't. Because
when it comes down to the reality of all the truth that He's given you and me, they can't grasp hold of it. They think, oh, we're speaking in tongues, talking a different language. Oh, that's a different cult. Blah 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 blah.
No, woe to them, because He said that He will put it in their hearts to believe the lie.
Yeah.
Because they refuse to come to the light, to the truth.
No more tapping the table. I'll be ready. Oh, no. Okay, verse 5.
And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, and that at the end thereof they might stand before the king.
Okay, now this is, what's his name? Scroll up, find out his name again. Yeah, Ashpenaz, master of the eunuchs. Okay, he brought in the certain persons of the children of Israel. Okay, now, and so hold on now, and of the king's seed, and of the princes, and of the king's seed, Hezekiah.
Yeah,
remember that? Yeah. Yeah. Because he said, your sons, which shall come from your bowels, shall be eunuchs and stand before the king.
Right, this was about
in Babylon, yeah.
That was about him.
Yeah. So these are Hezekiah's probably at this point great grandsons. I don't know how many years it was, but it's a while back. Because all four of them, I mean, you know, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were brothers.
Mm-hmm.
If not, even that, triplets possibly. And Daniel was either their elder brother or maybe their uncle. I don't know. But even then, he was only, quite possibly, only a few years older than they were. Now, among these were the children of Judah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Children of Judah. Okay. Yeah. Hezekiah, king of Judah. Okay. Was Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names. For he gave unto Daniel the name of Belteshazzar. Okay, scroll down, please. And to Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael, Meshach, and to Azariah of Abednego. Okay.
That's how I remember them the most.
Right. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat. Saying, now this right here, it's called the Book of Daniel for a reason. Okay, Daniel was the elder of the four. So I'm sure that they were all Hezekiah's sons. See. So, and like I say, I was born an uncle. I got 2 nieces and 1 nephew older than I am, but I'm still their uncle because of the way it happened with, out of 13 kids in the family, I'm second to the youngest. So.
And then here's another buzzword. Daniel purposed in his heart. Well, we're supposed to purpose in our own heart to believe willingly and obediently God's words and all truth. That is what we're supposed to do. That's what he just gave us.
Yep, that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat. Not only of food, but also of the knowledge. Nor with the wine which he drank. See, here it's somehow hinting towards hungering and thirsting for righteousness. What is righteousness? But something that a person has an ability to stand upon, ego, self-esteem, socially, finding oneself acceptable before the face of everybody else on the face of the earth, social status. Okay. I don't know what you're doing now.
Oh, I'm just doing this, and I'm coming right back to it. So here we go. Ready?
So anyway, he did not want to defile himself. He was seeking God's righteousness, not his own. So he did not go with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine. Okay, that's hungry and thirsty. Okay, so he was hungry and thirsty for God's righteousness, not his own. See, people throughout time have understood that there is a righteousness greater than their own. Just intuitively. They understand, okay, there's...
It's in our soul.
Yeah, right.
Truth.
And it's our souls that we need to understand that, yes, for one, they do exist. For two, they're part of us. Three, they're the greater part of us, our souls. Personality is just something we hang on to,
That's what's bringing us into the man's traditions and the belief of all the Earth's belief system.
And condemnation.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. And therefore, he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. So, in verse 9, now God had brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. Not that he was gay.
No.
Get your head out of the garbage pail there, guys.
Yeah, tolerance.
Yeah. And the prince of the eunuchs said to Daniel, I fear my lord king, who has appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your faces worse liking than the children, scroll down please, which are of your sort? Then shall you make me endanger my head to the king. In other words, Ashpenaz, whatever his name is, he's pleading with Daniel like, dude, come on, man. Hey, if you don't eat this stuff, which the king has appointed me to give you, you're gonna look kind of squirrely and owly and not so good. And if after 3 years the king sees you and I haven't done any better than that, my head's on the block, dude. So, Ashpenaz, I guess he hooked up with them Melzar here in verse 11. That's who he's talking to. Melzar was, I guess, what do they call it?
Captain of the guard.
No, well, for one, but for two, back then, it's like today, he's, what do they call it, tool pusher, job foreman, okay, for these guys. So Ashpenaz was the tool pusher, and Melzar was the foreman on the job. And so Daniel says to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, right? So he's the foreman, right? So Daniel's telling him, he says, prove us. Prove your servants. I beseech you. I beg of you. Give me 10 days. Give us 10 days. And let them, whoever they are, the servants or the people that are going to be serving the food, those, they call those, anyway, he says, let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink. So pulse, I don't know. I don't even know what pulse is.
I have no idea.
Could be just fruits and vegetables. Or you put it in today's language, what do you do with a NutriBullet?
Pulse it.
Yeah, really. You grind it down to where you just,
So maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
It was just ground down and...
Yeah.
Like pulsed. Into pulp.
Pulverized. Yeah.
Wow.
Pulverized, like you do with baby food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just give us that. And check us out in 10 days, see if we're not any better. Because in verse 13, then let our countenances be looked upon before you. Our countenance, their whole being.
Could have been that's what God let Daniel know.
Yeah.
Let us eat pulse.
Yeah.
Drink water, and He'll make them.
Yeah. So he says, then let our countenance be looked upon before you, and the countenance of the children that eat the portion of the king's meat. And as you see, deal with your servants. So as you see then, okay. So he consented to them in this matter and proved them 10 days because he got 3 years, okay. So he tells them, this is from day one. He says, look, check it out, man. Give us 10 days. Prove us to see if we ain't, at least look as strong and healthy looking as the rest of them. So he goes, oh, okay. So verse 15, and at the end of 10 days, their countenance appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children that did eat the portion of the king's meat.
I have a feeling that was from God.
Right, and so
Daniel now.
not only that, but the fairer and fatter, meaning bulkier. They were bumped up. They had like 6-pack abs.
Mm-hmm.
They look like weightlifters and such. Arnold Schwarzenegger types. In just 10 days.
Yeah. So usually when it's God's people, there's something different about them at all times, in all things.
For one, belief.
Oh yeah, no.
And faith. Trust.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot.
No doubt.
There's a lot to those matters of being, faith, belief, and trust.
Mm-hmm.
Than what meets the eye or the ear, even.
Yeah.
But they don't want to listen to that. Oh, really?
Well, this is proof of it.
I know.
This is proof of it. That's why I said that he must have been talking with God, and God let him know this, and he told him to tell him this, and didn't say it, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
It definitely makes sense, and it fits, because they were more fairer and fatter than any of the people there.
Yeah.
Eating the king's meat and wine and everything else.
Yeah. So verse 16, thus Melzar, the foreman, took away the portion of their meat, the king's meat, and the wine they should drink, and gave them pulse. As for these 4 children, verse 17, as for these 4 children, God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom. And Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams.
Yeah.
Boom.
Exactly.
So, you trust in God. You believe in God. You have faith in God.
No doubting.
Yeah. You step up to the plate and own up to God and put Him, sanctifying Him in all things that you think, say, and do.
Everything.
And He will prove Himself holy, righteous, true, and faithful within and through you. It's going to be more so than just I got a God sticker and bumper sticker on the back of my car. Yeah, check out my Man of God key ring that I got. Shut up.
That's what Christians do. They have to wear these earrings and these lockets around their necks and everything else, and God only knows what.
Even some of them on the other end of the spectrum getting tattoos. I believe in God. Jesus is Lord. Tattoo.
He said not to do that.
Yeah.
Not to cut yourself.
I know. In verse 18, now at the end of the days, was 3 years, okay, that the king had said he should bring them in, not only Melzar, but Ashpenaz. Then the prince of the eunuchs brought them before Nebuchadnezzar. And the king communed with him. He had a sit down with him. Hey, come here. Yeah, let's talk. And among them all was found none like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore stood they before the king.
Exactly. None of them
Right.
were found like them. Why? Because God's involved.
It's like the
just like Trump today.
Yeah, it's like the 10
God's
virgins
involved.
too.
Yeah, exactly.
5 were wise. 5 were lazy.
Yep. 5 were born again and maintaining it, and 5 were born again, but they didn't maintain it.
Well, they were just of the world. They believed, but that you know, you can believe in anything.
They claim they're born again Christian. There's no such thing as godly people.
Yeah, there you go. They're born again Christians. Well, if you add anything to it, like he says in Revelation, you add anything to this.
I know.
Well, it's in the Bible. They were called Christians first in Antioch.
Because the Jews made fun of them.
Right. It was a laughing stock. I hear them now. Oh, here come those Christians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the world hates you. They don't love you. They will not put up with you.
And that was written in the book of Acts.
Yep.
You know.
But that doesn't mean that they're blessed by God, Christians, because what they did is they added Christianity, they added all the pagan religions and the pagan holidays and the pagan everything else to Christianity, and it made it into a
well, they added the namesake, and then instead of it becoming a blessing,
it became a curse.
Yeah.
Upon them.
Exactly right. Because otherwise, if they'd have just, hey, we believe in Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
We're children of the Most High God. You know, they didn't want to get into any of this name calling and stuff like that. So they just left it alone. Okay, they were called Christians first at Antioch. Well, Christians first. I can see it. They're all standing in line at a food bank. Okay, Christians first.
They're the ones that are lukewarm.
And so
they've got so much falsehood mixed up in belief.
Yep. So they've fallen.
It became a religion and nothing else. So
Christians is lukewarm.
It's a step into the right direction, but you have to become born again.
Yeah, you got to get out from them.
Yeah, you do.
You know.
Come out from among her, my people.
Yeah, they had no choice but to step in because that's what man does.
Yeah.
But eventually, the soul's going to win the argument over your personality, and you're going to wake up. Yeah. Hopefully. Yeah, you're going to wake up, smell the roses, learn what it means to be willing and obedient.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
In your mind as well.
And believe.
In your mind as well.
Will yourself to believe. Mm-hmm. That's why I had you write down there yesterday, you know, with all the strength that you know how to muster within you, get it.
Mm-hmm. You have to.
Force feed yourself the Word of God.
There's no other way to heaven.
Because nobody else is going to force feed you. You know.
No hope for heaven at all.
That's why I left the church when I was 16. I thought, I'm tired of people shoving this stuff down my throat.
Well, that's what everybody says.
In their own subtlety.
And you can understand why.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I was going on and off for many years to different Christian, churches. But I never got anything out of it except hatred. Why? Because they make you feel that you're better than everyone else.
Hatred,
and you're the one going to heaven, and they're the ones going to hell.
And what's that other one? Resentments.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Jealousy.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Satan and the witch are going to church every day. They're there. That's their place.
Yeah. Well, they feed off your small feelings.
Not worship.
I know.
That's their terror palaces.
Yep.
Within you.
Yep.
It's Satan's seat within you.
Verse 20. And in all matters of wisdom and understanding, they stood before the king. And the king inquired of them. He found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers that were in all his realm. Even from day one.
That's because of God.
Right. And that was 3 years after they had been there. So, And Daniel continued, even unto the first year of King Cyrus.
Yep. Chapter 2.
Yep, Daniel chapter 2. And in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams, wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep broke from him. In the second year, 2002.
In the prophetics,
Yeah. Then the king commanded, or the second year, the year 2000. The second. Okay. Verse 2. Then the king commanded to call the magicians and astrologers and the sorcerers and the Chaldeans. There's a 4-pack for you.
Yeah.
For to show the king his dreams.
Same thing found in churches, too.
Yeah. So they came and stood before the king. Okay, we're here. What's up? And the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream. Then spoke the Chaldeans to the king in Syriac. That was their language. Okay. O king, live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation. Excuse me. Hello. It's gone from me. Hello. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, this thing is gone from me. If you will not make known unto me the dream, with the interpretation thereof, you shall be cut in pieces, and your houses shall be made a dunghill.
That's not a good thing.
No.
Wow.
He had a dream. It bothered him to pieces. Still, it's the next day or maybe a week later, and he's still, I got to know what this dream is.
Yeah.
But if you show the dream and the interpretation thereof, you shall receive of me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore, show me the dream and the interpretation thereof.
You can imagine what happens now.
And they answered again and said, let the king tell the servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation of it. Are you brain dead? Hello? Is anybody there? Hello? I mean, really? King answered and said, I know of certainty that you would gain the time, because you see, the thing is gone from me. But if you will not make known unto me the dream, there is but one decree for you.
Yeah.
For you have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me.
As they did, yes.
Yep. Till the time be changed, and they still do.
Oh, yeah.
Therefore, tell me the dream, and I shall know that you can show me the interpretation thereof. They're absolutely clueless. The Chaldeans answered before the king and said, there is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter.
Wow.
Therefore, there is no king, there is no lord, there is no ruler that asks such things at any magician or astrologer or Chaldean. Oh, really?
That's not good.
See, it's like the Democrats today.
Yeah,
we're so much this and that. Shut up, really.
Yeah, and they want to destroy everything.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And it is a rare thing that the king requires. And there is none other that can show it before the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh. So right there, they're even acknowledging that there is a God whose dwelling is not with flesh.
But they say the gods.
Yeah.
There's only one God, true God.
I know. It's all fluff.
So all it is their beliefs in gods.
Yeah.
The earth's gods.
For this cause the king was angry and very furious, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. Oh, man, Daniel, why didn't you let him do it, dude? But that's the long-suffering of God. Within Daniel, he didn't want to see them destroyed because of the wisdom of God that he received. Knowing that God's long-suffering is for all men, that none should perish.
That's right.
That they would see what God would be doing and performing throughout the lifetime of Nebuchadnezzar, that they would become wiser still, repent and return.
Yeah.
You know.
But just because it is true that God would that none would perish, that does not mean people don't perish and send themselves to hell.
That's right.
That is a falsehood. And they teach that in Christianity as well.
Yep.
That's why they believe in the eternal security. The falsehood.
Chapter 2, verse 13. And the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain. And they, the wise men, sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain. Oh, no. And they, the guards, the Republican guards, as it were, they sought even Daniel and his fellows to be slain too. Verse 14. Then Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon. And he answered Daniel, and said to Arioch, the king's captain, why is the decree so hasty from the king?
So quick.
Yeah. Then Arioch made the thing known to Daniel. Like, hey, the king had a dream, you know, he's all butthurt, he can't remember it, he's on it.
And he's told nobody on earth can tell it.
Yeah, he's on a total rant. Nobody can appease him. You're all going to die. You're all going to die.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Then Daniel went in and desired of the king that he would give him time and that he would show the king the interpretation. Give him time. How much time? I don't know. Time, dude. Then Daniel went to his house and made the thing known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Yeah.
I would have believed they were his brothers.
Their family. Yeah,
their family. Sure.
That they would desire mercies of God, of the God of heaven, concerning this secret.
You're supposed to do that first, yes.
That Daniel and his fellows should not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon.
So there's your secret right there.
Right.
Concerning this thing, they went to God.
Right.
First.
Yeah.
That's what we're all supposed to do.
Yeah. Verse 19. Then was the secret revealed unto Daniel in a night vision. So God gave him a night to rest and see what he, see what he's doing. Then Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Verse 20. Daniel answered and said, blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. And he changes the times and the seasons. He removes kings and sets up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to them that know understanding.
So
not just to anybody, any fool or whatever,
right.
But to those who understand knowledge.
Right, and so these kings he's also speaking of today are called leaders, presidents, and such. Yep. So he's also telling us nowadays, Trump is in for a reason. Get used to it.
He reveals the deep and secret things. He knows what is in the darkness, and the light dwells with him. This is Daniel's prayer and acknowledgement and praise unto God. I thank you and praise you, O you, God of my fathers, who has given me wisdom and might, and has made known unto me now what we desire of you, for you have now made known unto us the king's matter.
And it says, and you have made known to me, unto me. So he does work through people who trust him, who depend on him, who go to him and trust him for everything and anything.
Right.
He makes it known unto them.
Right.
He also helps us to teach you truths that he has given unto us.
Right.
And we're giving to you all the time.
Right. So here Daniel's even acknowledging the word now. The word and the presence and the entity of the expanse of time that is known as now.
Right now. The second.
Right. Exactly.
The very second. Come in.
And verse 24. Therefore Daniel went unto Arioch, captain of the guard, whom the king had ordained to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus to him, Destroy not the wise men of Babylon. Bring me in before the king, and I will show unto the king the interpretation. And you want to talk about somebody that was really pleased to know this about someone? It was Arioch, because he says, then Arioch brought Daniel in before the king in haste. Let's go. Come on. We got, I only got 15 minutes here, bud. Let's get it done. That girl gets some crunchies. Eat some crunchies. Good girl. Eat mama crunchies. Crunch. Girl. Oh, yeah, I'll give you some crunchies.
Okay.
And Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste and said thus unto him, I have found a man of the captives of Judah that will make known unto the king the interpretation.
Mm-hmm. You can imagine how thrilled he was.
Yeah, he's sweating bullets.
Wow.
Verse 26. Then the king, Nebuchadnezzar, answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, Are you able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen and the interpretation thereof? Verse 27. Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, The secret which the king has demanded, cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers, show unto the king? Okay, right there.
Yeah.
Soothsayers, the Chaldeans.
Mm-hmm. They cannot explain it.
No.
God didn't give it to them.
No.
They don't believe in him.
Yeah, verse 28. But there is a God in heaven that reveals secrets and makes known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Yeah. Your dream and the visions of your head upon your bed are these. Verse 29. As for you, O king, your thoughts came into your mind upon your bed. What should come to pass hereafter? And he that reveals secrets makes known to you what shall come to pass. Verse 30. But as for me, Daniel, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living, but for their sakes that shall make known the interpretation to the king, and that you might know the thoughts of your heart. So, here he says, but as for me, the secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom for any wisdom. I'm not getting anything out of this, But, and not that I have any more smarts than anybody else,
right,
what he's telling.
Exactly, and that's what we tell people.
Right. But for their sake.
From him, not us.
The ones that he wanted to have killed, including himself.
Yeah.
But for their sakes, that shall make known the interpretation to the king, and that you might know the thoughts of your heart. Just basically to please the king. I'm a good servant, I'm going to do you right, okay? That's basically what he's saying. So in verse 31, you, O king, you saw, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before you. And the form thereof was terrible. So it wasn't an image of
evil,
like the portray in the pictures of Nebuchadnezzar himself. You know, because the image, it was a great image, and its brightness was excellent. It stood before him, and the form thereof was terrible. So what? Nebuchadnezzar looks in the mirror and he thinks himself terrible? Well, I don't think so.
Let's not forget, it is written that the Lord God of heaven and earth is of his excellence and majesty, and yet terrible.
Yeah.
It's written in there.
Yep.
And that means that bad things can come from him as well, only because he is executing his judgment upon man.
And through disbelief, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Verse 32. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay.
Okay, go back up.
Well, let me finish.
Okay, go ahead.
You saw until that stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and broke them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floor, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Okay, so that's verse 36. Okay, so we're going back up to where?
Okay.
Verse 32. The image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass. Okay, gold is the most cherished metal upon the face of the earth. Silver is the second, and then brass is the third. Like you go to the Olympics, the Olympic prizes, whatever.
Well, you got to remember too, it's also the most potent metal. I don't know what you call it, substance in the earth, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's sort of. Well, brass is stronger than silver, and silver is stronger than gold. But I mean, gold is the most cherished than silver and brass, because that's what they make the coins out of.
But he's talking about kingdoms here.
Right. Yeah. His legs of iron. Okay. Iron is stronger than brass. His feet, part of iron and part clay. Okay. So, you saw it till that a stone. Okay, that a stone was cut out without hands. That stone is Jesus. Okay.
Cornerstone.
Yeah, chief cornerstone.
Chief cornerstone.
Which smote the image upon his feet.
I get it now.
Upon his feet. How does a message get transported by missionaries, people that take the message to other countries and blah, 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 even in all of its falsehood?
Yeah, so what he's saying is Jesus is come to destroy the kingdoms of this earth, which are filled with man's traditions, man's teachings, man's ideas, man's ideologies, all of it.
Yeah, even science and religion.
Everything, yes.
and which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay. Mixed messages.
Oh, yeah.
Iron is of science, clay is of religion. Clay, the potter's clay, and broke them into pieces. Okay. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, silver, and gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floor. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. No place was found for them. That's meaning the very end of time. Because there's not going to be anything left. Okay. And the stone that smote the image, became a great mountain and filled the whole earth.
Truth.
Yep.
It's filling the whole earth now with their teachings that we're given through our videos and notes and everything.
Yep.
It's being taught. And he said, this gospel shall go into all the earth before.
Then the end shall
come. Yes, then the end shall come.
This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Now, that's why I wanted to go back through this. Thank you for this, babe. So that we get our 2 cents in before we read what Daniel had been given. I'm not dissing him at all. It's just a matter of I wanted to fulfill this matter before we move on. Verse 37, you, O king, are a king of kings.
Earth kings.
For earth kings, right.
Earth kings.
For the God of heaven has given you kingdom. God of heaven has given you power. God of heaven has given you strength. And God of heaven has given you glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven has he given into your hand. And has made you ruler over them all. You are this head of gold. Yep. So, that's why at the end of all of this, Nebuchadnezzar finally comes forth after he's been out grassland eating grass, naked as a jaybird for 7 years. Finally comes back to himself and praises God. However long his rule and reign was after that he returned, I don't know, but my back. Don't go there, please. This too shall pass, Jesus.
Yes.
Verse 39. And after you shall arise another kingdom. Not king. Kingdom. Okay. Inferior to you.
What does inferior mean again?
There is an inferiority complex where others, which an inferiority complex basically is a pity pot. Oh, poor little me, I'm not as smart and big and old handsome and cute or pretty as
So that's what it means?
Yeah.
Inferior to them?
Yeah.
So they're jealous of them.
Right.
Being so blessed and all.
And another third kingdom. Not king. Kingdom. Of brass. So, and after you shall arise another kingdom, inferior to you, of silver, okay?
Verse 39.
Right. And another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear the rule over all the earth. Okay, now we understand that, because he tells us about the Medes and the Persians.
Yeah.
Okay. Verse 40, and the fourth kingdom. Shall be as strong as iron, We understand now because it is made of iron. Yeah, in other words, it's everything that's in the PC computer. That's what it is. It has been, well, you got the keyboard, has been mined and produced from out of the earth. Okay, so right there. Hold on. Okay, cool. PC. Everything that it is has been taken from products of the earth. Even all that they say that they have, even whatever, silicone and all this other stuff, is taken from the earth. Mm-hmm. But it's been altered and messed with to where it's like, that's why you can't put plastic and stuff like that man has already created and stuff, man created, back into the earth because it doesn't, it doesn't decay properly, so it winds up becoming a pollutant to anything and everything. It's gross. Okay, verse 40 in part 2, for as much as iron breaks in pieces and subdues all things, and as iron that breaks all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. So the iron's going to break in pieces and bruise anything and everything, person, place, and thing it sets to.
Especially mindsets.
Has been aimed towards, right? Yes.
Mindsets of people. Going to bruise them bad.
Right. So also the mindset of what it takes to produce iron. So the minds of men, right there. Minds of men. Minds.
Recycling, you mean?
Well, start with the minds of men. And even recycling. Good. That's it. Because they're even recycling human beings, really,
Yeah.
Oh, they are not, cloning as well as
test tube babies.
And even telling people that, you have to sign up as a donor. Really?
Yeah.
They told me that here when I got up here. I'm like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, that's what they want.
Yeah. Verse 41. And whereas you saw the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. And it's even written in the word that the wicked take the kingdom by force and violence.
Yep.
That's
this kingdom.
Yeah. And that,
takes the kingdom of God by force and evil. Yeah.
And the kingdom shall be divided. And the kingdom at that point in that day was both religion and science.
It is today.
Church of Scientology.
And all this other falsehood.
But there shall be in it, of the strength of the iron. So it's going to be a very strong delusion.
Write that down.
Yes, while you're there.
Now remember, God said He will put within a person the strong delusion to believe the lie.
Mm-hmm.
Because you refuse the truth, all of it.
Yeah. For as much. Okay. I mean, no matter what, it's written in stone. For as much. That's right there. The buzzword. For as much as you saw the iron mixed with miry clay. Yeah. Both science and religion are going to be intermixed. Yeah, you're there.
Well, both science and religion.
Taking it at and in the time span of where he's at right now in the Word. That's what's going on. You know, start off sorcerers, magicians, astrologers, soothsayers, the Chaldeans.
Yeah.
You know.
And they wanted to look like they were above and better than these people, so they called a different name, but they're still in the same mindset.
Yep. So,
same mind. Of the Chaldeans. Soothsayers, wickedness in the Old Testament. Yet call it a different name.
Christianity.
Yep.
Yep.
Christianity. And 300 AD is where most of it began.
Mm-hmm.
Mixing. Paganism with truth. And call that truth.
Well, it actually started in the book of Acts.
Yeah.
They were called Christians first at Antioch. Really?
Book of Acts.
God did not warrant that name.
No.
Jesus did not warrant that name.
God never warranted that name. That name to believers. That's right. The Jews did.
Mm-hmm.
The Jews, the fallen Israel. In Antioch. Which basically is where they were shipped off to, right? Or they ended up going
that's
to?
That's just where Paul went. That's what.
Well, yeah, Paul went there, but they called them Christians, the Jews, because they resided there. Antioch was a place.
Some did.
Yeah.
There was believers everywhere.
Yeah, there was. I'm talking about the Jews. They aren't the believers of God. They're believers of themselves and man and science and everything else.
Okay, scroll on down if you would. Verse 42, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken.
That's right.
Okay, partly strong attitude.
Partly strong attitude.
Yep. / personality. Me-ism. And partly broken. Truth. Belief. Faith. Trust. Well, how can that be? Well, okay, you just wind up realizing now that it's all you have always been backwards.
Deny all of the truth. Believe, faith, trust in God. Yeah.
Right, because he stated that in Isaiah chapter 1. You all turn away.
Yeah, they are.
Backward.
And that's a bad thing because hell has enlarged herself for that reason.
Yep.
They will not come back to him.
Yep. Chapter 5.
They die that way.
Chapter 5:14 of Isaiah, right there.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter.
Okay.
Isaiah
5:14.
Larges herself. Okay.
And for all this, his hand is held, stretched out still. Okay, verse 43. And whereas you saw iron mixed with miry clay, miry clay. That's like grabbing into a bag, a bread bag, get a piece of bread to make a sandwich, and you pull it out of the bag, and you don't realize even, let's say it's the power's been shut off in your apartment or whatever, and you're making yourself a sandwich. Then you take one great big bite out of it, and it tastes kind of different.
Mm-hmm.
And then you open the refrigerator door, or somebody happens on, a car goes by with the headlights on it, and you see the mold that you've been eating. Oh, God. Oh, God. I mean, yeah. It's not good clay.
Mm-mm.
Clay is kind of like a paste, like the modeling clay.
Mm-hmm.
Smooth, has its own viscosity as far as pliability, you shape it to different ways and stuff. Miry clay is like, where'd you get that clay, man? It's like, the cesspool.
It also deals with falsehood.
Yeah. Yeah. So you get clay out of a cesspool. What's that do? Saying it stinks. It's gross. Quick. Oh, I smacked my thumb with a hammer, but it's been in this stinky, miry cesspool clay. Well, does your thumb hurt? Yeah, well, shove it in your mouth. Oh, that's gross. Yeah, there you go. That works real good, doesn't it?
They're half-truths.
Yep. And if they just wake up and realize that the stuff they've been hearing and believing all these times has been so grossly mixed with all that
Mm-hmm.
and realize that is that gross. As a dog returns to his vomit again, look at a dog.
Yeah.
Seriously, watch that dog throw up, and then watch that dog go return back to his vomit and try and eat it up again.
Just like a cat.
Ain't that just some gross stuff?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing by going back to church all the time, getting more and more and more.
Yeah, so let's get graphic to that end and keep that mindset in you about how gross it really is, because everything you get from those churches is gross.
Yeah, it is. It's half-truths.
Yeah.
They put part truth in with half-truths and call it truth, and he said, woe to you.
Yeah, right there. Carrying on from the miry clay. They shall mingle themselves with the seed of men.
Mm-hmm.
Doctrines of demons and devils.
Right.
But they shall not cleave one to another. In other words, they won't stick together. They'll be totally divided continually. Satan is never satisfied, and this is where you're getting it from. They shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. It's like, I take a brake hub from a car, brand new or old and rusty, either way. Take that brake hub from a car, and using any kind of glue that you want to, and stick it to the windshield on the inside of the car. Stick it to the windshield because it's, angled in and down. Yeah, try and put that thing, glue it to the windshield of the car and see if it sticks. Oh, it may for a while, but as soon as you hit a speed bump or rock even, thunk, you know, and those things are heavy. Yeah, try and keep driving with after a hub of a car is falling off the windshield, smack yourself, hard, in the kneecap. Oh, dang. Yeah, it's gonna hurt. Mm-hmm. Probably break a bone. Or it hits your passenger. Yeah, that's going well. Oh, baby, I love you. I didn't mean for that. No, you hate me, you piece of work. Oh!
Yeah, God is warning everyone. Man's traditions, etc., can never be mixed with truth. Ever.
Never.
And it can never be truth.
No. That's why he says in Revelation, he who adds to these things, he shall be added unto him all the plagues, everything else, you know. And he who takes away even his piece of work of life and livelihood and his own name will be blotted out of the Lamb's Book of Life.
Yeah, no.
You really want to go there?
Blotted out.
Yeah.
Oh, that can't be true. God loves us. Yeah, He loves you, and even if you send yourself to hell, He loves you because even 139 in Psalms, it says that if I ascend to heaven, you are there, Lord. If I make my own bed in hell, you are there, Lord.
Why would you be blotted out?
Man.
Why would you be blotted out? In other words, who blots out a name out of the Lamb's Book of Life? You do yourself.
Yeah, you do. And then God has to go with it.
Yeah.
He has to accept it because you've done it yourself.
You've made yourself your own God.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
You made yourself your own God. Thank you. Yep. You made yourself your own God.
Lowercase.
Yep.
Yeah, you good girl. Way to go. Verse 44 of chapter 2, Daniel. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people. Bingo, right there. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people.
Yeah, kingdom of heaven.
Anybody that calls themselves a Christian, you ain't got squat to do with the kingdom of heaven. Why? Because you haven't found it. Why? Because you can't.
Kingdom of heaven shall not be left to other people.
No. He tried to give it to the children of Israel, but they turned on him.
That's right.
From their very beginning. It's terrible. But it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever.
Yeah, exactly.
However many people get it, there you go. They call themselves the army of God. Really? What are you, an ant? Cockroach?
Yeah. Army of God is just the...
You mosquito?
The animals and the insects and everything else that He uses for plagues. That's the army of God.
Yeah.
I always believed it too. I wrote it down many times. I'm the army of God.
Yeah.
No, I'm...
We have to understand how many different kingdoms there are. This kind after that kind, and this kind after its own kind, and kind and kind. Kind is kingdom. It's in Genesis. Okay, verse 45. For as much as you saw that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands.
That's God.
Yep, that's the kingdom of heaven right there.
Kingdom of heaven.
And it broke in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, the gold. The great God has made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. Scroll down, please.
Hereafter.
And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure.
100% sure.
Yep. Then the king, Nebuchadnezzar, or Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar, or Tsar Nebuchadnezzar, Tsar. Nebuchadnezzar, that's his name, really. He's a Tsar.
We call him Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah, Nebuchadnezzar, but he's a Tsar. King stuff. Fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel and commanded that they should offer an oblation and sweet odors unto him. Whoa. I'm sure he's like, whoa. Because he does. Look at that. Scrolling down, please. Verse 47. The king answered unto Daniel and said, of a truth, it is that your God is a God of gods, and a Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, seeing that you could reveal this secret.
Yeah, exactly.
Then the king made Daniel a great man, and gave him many great gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and made him chief of the governors over all the wise men of Babylon. Then Daniel requested of the king, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon.
Yep.
But Daniel sat in the gate of the king.
Isn't that something?
Yep.
Because of the faith and the belief of the truth of God, they were blessed, just like Joseph was. He was set over as governor of Egypt, all Egypt, even though he was taken captive by the Midianites.
Yep.
And they brought him to Egypt to be a slave. He ended up being governor over all.
Yep. Daniel chapter 3, verse 1. Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold. Daniel's like, dude, so I give you the interpretation of the dream. And now you're going to make yourself an image of gold? Really, dude? Whose height was 80 cubits. Okay, that's 90 feet tall.
Jeez.
And the breadth of it thereof was 6 cubits. That's 9 feet thick. He set it up in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon.
That was because he put it in his heart. God did. Because he showed him through that furnace what he really was. Who the God he was really.
Yeah, he set it up in the plain of Duracell battery. Copper top battery, Duracell. So. Verse 2, then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent to gather together the princes, the governors, the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Verse 3, then the princes, the governors, the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up, and they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Which, if you look at it today, who is like the beast that could war against him? In Revelation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The PC, the government, democratic society, blah, blah, blah.
Globalism.
Blah. Yeah. Verse 4, then a herald cried out. Hey, herald, time for you to cry. Ah! No. Ow. To you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that what time you hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music. Basically, y'all, when y'all hear the band playing, you fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king has set up. And whosoever falls not down and worships shall the same hour be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace.
Similar to the second death, but that's similar to it.
Verse 7, therefore at that time, When all the people heard the sound of the band is playing, and all the people, nations, and languages, everybody fell down and worshipped the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Verse 8. Wherefore at that time certain Chaldeans, why aren't they falling down and setting? They're just as guilty as that. Oh yeah, we fell down and worshipped, but we got back up and went out and looked for people. Because it says, wherefore at that time certain Chaldeans came near and accused the Jews. They spoke and said to the king, O king, live forever. You, O king, have made a decree that every man that shall hear the sound of the band playing, and shall fall down, they shall fall down and worship the golden image, and whoso falls not down,
verse 11,
and worship, that he should be cast in the midst of the fiery furnace. Verse 12, there are certain Jews whom you have set up over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded you. They serve not your gods, nor worship the golden image which you have set up.
Okay, stop. Because these are not Jews.
Right.
They said they were Jews, but they are not Jews, because Jews are not of God's people.
Right.
They're the fallen Israel who God divorced because he blotted them out because of their disobedience to him.
Mm-hmm.
They ignored his words.
Well, they blotted themselves out.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, through disobedience.
But he had to blot them out.
Yeah, and disbelief.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 13, then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. Verse 14, and Nebuchadnezzar spoke and said unto them, is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Do not you serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Verse 15, now if you be ready, that at what time you hear the sound of, when you hear the band playing, you fall down and worship the image which I have made. If you decide then, and you're ready to do that, well, cool, that's very well. Okay? But if you worship not, you shall be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that should deliver you out of my hands?
Yeah, see the falsehood, see the doubt,
Mm-hmm.
see his
quick fall from grace.
Yeah, exactly. Very quick.
Yeah. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer you in this matter. In other words, really? Booby. Nebuchadnezzar. Okay. Azar. Nebuchadnezzar. We don't really care, but, If it be so, verse 17, if it be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning, fiery furnace. And he will deliver us out of your hand, O king.
Now, he just spoke the truth.
Yes.
And his positiveness activated God through the belief and the faith in God.
Yeah, God is not moved by need.
That's right. Exactly.
He's moved by willingness and obedience.
Exactly, and that's what they did.
He will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, be it known to the king, O king, be it known unto you, O king, that we will not serve your gods, nor worship the golden image which you have set up.
Exactly.
In other words, they're in his face.
Yeah, and they also are putting their lives on the line in their eyes, but they know that God will deliver them.
Yep.
But he said, even though they don't, we're still not bowing down.
Because they're talking to him like they talk to their brothers or sisters or anybody else on the world. It's like, hey, you know what? Check it out, Chuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you are a king, but you know what?
We're not going to risk our soul for you.
You're not greater than we are because we serve an almighty God.
Yes,
and you did too at one time.
Yep.
Maybe for a day or two, I don't know. Verse 19, then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fury, And the form of his visage was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore he spoke and commanded that they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it was wont to be heated. In other words, heat that sucker up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if the metal that it's in melts. I want it heated up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where did they get the fuel for that fire?
They're people.
People, that's right. Bodies.
And read it. You'll understand it. Verse 20. He commanded the most mighty men that were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their coats, their hosen, and their hats, and all their garments, and cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent, and the furnace exceeding hot, the flames of the fire burned up those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So they became crispy critters.
Yeah.
That threw them in.
Yeah.
They become crispy critters. They weren't even in the midst of it. They just threw them in.
Just because of the exceeding heat that was coming off that thing, cooked them.
Yeah. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound in the midst of the fiery furnace.
Yeah, they fell down, bound. They're all wrapped up. All of their clothes, they took all of their clothes out of their apartment and stuff and wrapped them up in their clothes. And then
24.
And so they couldn't even walk properly.
The king.
Yeah.
The Nebuchadnezzar, the king, was astonished and rose in haste, very fast, and spoke unto the counselors. Did not we cast 3 men bound in the midst of that fire?
Mm-hmm.
They answered the king and said to him, True, O king. Verse 25, and he answered and said, Lo, look, I see 4 men loosed, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. How does he know that?
Yeah.
Because he put it in his heart.
Yeah.
Nebuchadnezzar's heart, God put it in his heart.
From the day of the dream.
Know.
From the day of the interpretation of that dream.
Yeah,
Daniel gave him.
He knew that was who it was.
Yeah.
He's like, that's why he was in shock and astonished and fear, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then Nebuchadnezzar came near the mouth of the burning fiery furnace and spoke and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you servants of the Most High God. Can't finish.
Come forth and come here. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth of the midst of the fire, just like that was yeah, it was a bit warm in there, guys. And the princes, governors, captains, and the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men, upon whose bodies the fire had no power.
Exactly.
Nor was a hair of their head singed. Neither were their coats changed, nor the smell of fire had passed them.
And this is the God we serve.
Yep.
Now, if that's a God you want to serve, start listening to truth.
Mm-hmm.
And accept it by faith.
Verse 28, Then Nebuchadnezzar spoke and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel. Oh, okay, now it's his angel. Not the Son of God, but now his angel. And delivered his servants that trusted in him, and have changed the king's word, and yielded their bodies, that they might not serve nor worship any god except their own God.
Exactly.
Therefore I make a decree that every people, nation, and language which speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other God that can deliver after this sort.
Hallelujah.
Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to the province of Babylon. Yes, again, the second time.
Yeah.
Chapter 4, verse 1. Nebuchadnezzar the king. This is an edict that he had written, and so we're going to read it here. Nebuchadnezzar the king, unto all people, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth. Peace be multiplied unto you. I thought it good to show the signs and wonders that the high God has wrought toward me. How great are his signs, and how mighty are his wonders. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generation to generation.
True.
I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in mine house, and flourishing in my palace. I saw a dream, which made me afraid, and the thoughts upon my bed, and the visions of my head troubled me. Therefore made I a decree to bring in all the wise men of Babylon before me, that they might make known unto me the interpretation of the dream. Then came the magicians, the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers, and I told the dream before them, but they did not make known unto me the interpretation thereof. So here the soothsayers is changed around, because before it said the magicians, astrologers, and sorcerers, and the soothsayers, which were the Chaldeans. Now he's got the magicians, astrologers, and Chaldeans, and the soothsayers, which are the sorcerers. Okay. But at last Daniel came in before me, whose name is Belteshazzar, according to the name of my God, and in whom is the spirit of the holy gods. And before him I told the dream, saying, O Belteshazzar, master of the magicians, because I know that the spirit of the holy gods is in you, and no secret troubles you, tell me the visions of the dream that I have seen and the interpretation thereof. Thus were the visions of mine head in my bed. I saw, and behold, a tree in the midst of the earth, and the height thereof was great. The tree grew and was strong, and the height thereof reached unto heaven, and the sight thereof to the end of all the earth. The leaves thereof were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all. The beasts of the field had shadow under it, and the fowls of the heaven dwelt in the boughs thereof. And all flesh was fed of it. I saw in the visions of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher, and an holy one came down from heaven. He cried aloud and said thus, Hew down the tree, and cut off his branches, shake off his leaves, and scatter his fruit. Let the beasts get away from under it, and the fowls from his branches. Nevertheless, leave the stump of his roots in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass, in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven. And let his portion be with the beasts in the grass of the earth. Let his heart be changed from man's, and let a beast's heart be given unto him. And let 7 times pass over him.
7 years.
Yep. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men, and gives it to whomsoever he will, and sets up over it the basest of men.
Humbles. The humbler. The most humble.
Mm-hmm. This dream I, King Nebuchadnezzar, have seen. Now you, O Belteshazzar, declare the interpretation thereof, for as much as all the wise men of my kingdom are not able to make known unto me the interpretation, but you are able, for the Spirit of the holy gods is in you. Verse 19. Then Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, was astonished for 1 hour, and his thoughts troubled him. The king spoke and said, Belteshazzar, let not the dream or the interpretation thereof trouble you. Belteshazzar answered and said, My lord, the dream be to them that hate you, and the interpretation thereof to your enemies. The tree that you saw, which grew and was strong, whose height reached unto the heaven, and the sight thereof to all the earth, whose leaves were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all, under which the beasts of the field dwelt, and upon whose branches the fowls of the heaven had their habitation. It is you, O king. You are grown and become strong, for your greatness is grown and reached unto heaven, and your dominion to the end of the earth. And whereas the king saw a watcher and a holy one come down from heaven, and saying, Hew the tree down and destroy it, yet leave the stump of the roots thereof in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass, in the tender grass of the field. And let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beasts of the field, till 7 times pass over him. This is the interpretation, O king, and this is the decree of the Most High, which is come upon my lord the king. They shall drive you from men, and your dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make you to eat grass as oxen, and they shall wet you with the dew of heaven, and 7 times shall pass over you, till you know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men, and gives it to whomsoever he will.
Yes. That's exactly what Trump's in today, too.
Mm-hmm.
Wake up, people.
And whereas
he's doing good for us, not bad. But the bad people want him out.
And whereas they commanded to leave the stump of the tree roots, your kingdom shall be sure unto you. After that, you shall have known that the heavens do rule. Wherefore, O king, let my counsel be acceptable unto you, and break off your sins by righteousness, and your iniquities by showing mercy to the poor, if it may be a lengthening of your tranquility, peace of mind. All this came upon the king Nebuchadnezzar. At the end of 12 months, he walked in the palace of the kingdom of Babylon. And the king spoke. Is not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power and the honor of my majesty? While the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from heaven saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to you it is spoken, the kingdom is departed from you. Boom. Short-lived, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And they shall drive you from men, and your dwelling shall be with beasts of the field. They shall make you to eat grass as oxen, and 7 times shall pass over you, until you know that the Most High rules the kingdom of men, and gives it to whomsoever he will. The same hour was the thing fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar, and he was driven from men, and did eat grass as oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till his hairs were grown like eagles' feathers, and his nails were like birds' claws.
Yeah, that's from pride.
Yep.
Keep it out of you.
And here's his statement of prophecy. I'll let you read that.
Okay. Here's a statement of prophecy. In verse 34. And at the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up my eyes unto heaven, and my understanding returned unto me, and I blessed the Most High, and I praised and honored him that lives forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generation to generation. And all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing. And he does according to his will in the army of heaven. And among the inhabitants of the earth, and none can stay his hand, or say to him, why do you do this? What do you do? At the same time, my reason returned unto me, and for the glory of my kingdom, my honor and brightness returned unto me. And my counselors and my lords sought unto me, and I was established in my kingdom, and excellent majesty was added unto me. I now, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven. All those works are truth, and ways of his judgment, and those that walk in pride he is able to abase.